It all started the weekend before last. I bought a house, my first house. In the Navy I always lived in apartments, so I saved a lot of money. I usually ended up saving over $1,000 a month once I made first class. Plus I received an inheritance from my grandmother. So, I bought a very nice 3 bedrooms, 2 bath, 2,100 square foot house, just for me. 38 years old, and finally my very own place. I hired a handful of sailors and their wives or girlfriends to help me move me in. I provided beer, sodas, and lots of pizza. Sunday afternoon we drove to the front of my house and began unloading. All the guys were told to call me Jerry, no longer to be called Senior Chief. "Hey Jerry, where does this go?" Josh, a second-class petty officer from my last submarine asked. "Ask Heidi inside." One of the other guys' wife helped me organize things. I looked across the street at a house sort of like mine. Standing there was a lady, a pretty lady. She looked either Asian or Hispanic. She looked tall for an Asian, about 5 feet 6 inches, and slim. She had long black hair, and was wearing a dark green top. She looked at her watch nervously, glanced at me, and walked quickly into her house. "Looks like a looker, Senior Chief," another petty officer said. "I'm not messing with some other man's wife. Besides, she looked too young." "Not really," he said, picking up a box. "I'm 38, she looked about 28, I said while wrestling an easy chair to the edge of the U-Haul. Nothing more was said about her, but I saw her appear again about every 15 minutes until a Mercedes pulled up and a man unloaded 2 young children from it. The man and the woman from the house exchanged a few sharp words. The man then unloaded 2 car seats from the Mercedes and into a Honda minivan in the driveway, then sped away. I didn't see the woman again that day. The next morning at about 7:30 I went out to get a toolbox from the back of my car and saw the lady across the street struggling to get her kids into the minivan. "Come on Marcus, get into your seat." I grabbed my toolbox and went back into my house. 2 minutes later my doorbell rang. It seemed kind of early in the morning for the neighborhood welcoming committee. I opened the door and there she stood, the lady from across the street. "I'm sorry to bother you, but my car won't start. My ex-husband left one of the doors open part way, and the light burned the battery down. Could you possibly jump me?" "Sure I can," I replied. "I loaned someone my jumper cables a few days ago. But, somewhere in my garage I have a battery charger. Or do you have jumper cables?" She shook her head, her beautiful black hair flying. "No. I guess I'll call AAA." She turned to go until I called to her. "Wait, take my car. And I'll find the battery charger and charge your battery." She turned and gave me a quizzical look. "You can't do that, you don't know me." Again she turned to go. "You look like you need to get your kids to daycare, and yourself to work. I'm going to be working in the house all day and won't need my car. If I need to get somewhere I have a Yamaha motorcycle in the garage." I paused. "Where do you work?" "I'm a teacher at the school on the base." "Great. I have stickers on my car. Let's load your kids into my car so you can go." But she followed my fast pace to her minivan. "It will only take a couple minutes to switch the car seats." I opened the right back door and started taking her son, with his seat, out. She removed her daughter. "What's your name?" I asked. "Lourdes, but people call me Lee." She stopped at my car, a 5-year-old BMW 528. "Won't the car seats hurt your seats?" "Hi, I'm Jerry," I said as I loaded Marcus and seat into the back. "No, I doubt it." Lourdes finished buckling her daughter in. "I have to get our bags," she said before running across the street in her heels. She was nicely dressed in a dark blue pantsuit and pink blouse. I held the driver's door open for her as she tossed everything into the passenger seat. I gave her the keys. She moved the seat up several inches, I'm 6 feet 1 inch, and then raised it. She then turned to me, "I still don't know about Lee, go teach your students. We're neighbors, it's fine. I stepped back, closed the door, and waved at her. She started to reach for the shift lever by the steering wheel, then reached down where it was. She then gave me a nervous smile and drove off. I retrieved her keys from the van, got some tools, removed her battery and charged it. After reinstalling it, I started her van and ran it a few minutes. The interior was spotlessly clean, I noted. I was putting my new entertainment center together when the doorbell rang at 3:50 p.m. When you've been in navigation for 20 years, you note the time a lot. Upon answering the door, I saw Lourdes and her children. She held my keys out to me. Thank you so much. I barely made it to work on time. I took my keys and handed hers to her. Your battery is all charged up. I ran your car for about 5 minutes, so everything is fine. Should I thank your wife for the use of the car? Oh, I'm not married, never have been. You mean, I saw several women here yesterday. You bought this house just for you? I laughed. Yeah, just for me. And one of my sailor's wife, Heidi, doesn't think a bachelor can organize a home, so she wanted to do it. Lee looked confused and surprised. Well, I better get the car seats from your car and put them in the van. She turned to go and I followed. After the reinstallation, she turned to me. I really would like to do something to thank you. I paid my way through college cleaning homes. No, teachers shouldn't clean other people's homes. I thought for a moment. Are you Filipina? She gave an apprehensive, yes. Then the next time you make chicken adobo, save a bowl for me. She paused before replying, come over in 2 hours for chicken adobo. Dinner was delicious. Over dinner, Lee told me her father was a retired Navy senior chief, and worked on base. The man I had seen her with yesterday was her ex-husband, a dentist. She found out he had been cheating with his dental hygienist for close to 2 years, while she was pregnant with Marcus. He had established a secret bank account, which she found out about through a friend at the bank. She put her signature on the access card, and the afternoon before their final divorce hearing she paid off the house and her minivan with those account funds. She had asked for possession of the house, and he willingly signed a quitclaim deed, thinking she couldn't afford it. It was a few days before he found out he didn't have the $248,000 he was planning to use to buy another house. When the bank checked, she had backdated the signature on the access card for the account. She owned the house outright. His new girlfriend/dental hygienist was very unhappy. After dinner, I listened to her daughter, Anna, read a story, and I goofed off with the kids. When it was time to put the kids to bed, I headed towards the door. Do you have to go? Lee asked. Well, no, I don't have to. Don't you have papers to grade? Actually, no. I have a couple new DVDs, would you like to watch something? You must be tired from moving. I thought for a moment. You know, I haven't relaxed since I started the retirement process. I start working for a contractor in 2 months, let's watch a movie. I'll put the kids to bed and change into something comfortable. I grabbed my soda and sat on the couch. I could hear Lee in the back with her kids, and then it became quiet. Several minutes later, Lee walked into the living room with some DVDs. She asked me to pick one, which was hard since they were all chick flicks, but I picked My Big Fat Greek Wedding. As she sat down, Lee turned to me and said, Jerry, since the divorce happened a year and a half ago, you're the first man I've been around alone. I know this isn't a date, but, when you're Filipina, and Catholic, and divorced, and you have children, I've been so lonely, and this evening has been fun. I was touched. I've had a good time too. I met a new neighbor, and I had a good home-cooked meal. Lee started the movie. We sat side by side for probably half an hour when she looked at me. Jerry, can I lay down and put my head on your lap? My heart started racing. I looked at her a moment, then reached my hand behind her shoulder and pulled her to me. She reached over and pulled an Afghan off the back of the couch and pulled it over her. She lay like that for a long time, with one of my hands on her hip, I had to put it someplace, and the other on the arm of the couch. After a while she started squirming. "What are you doing?" I asked. "I'm trying to get more comfortable," she replied. I reached for my soda and tried to slide back at the same time. She then sat up and looked at me. "You must be uncomfortable, lay down beside me." She reached down by her feet and grabbed a long pillow and brought it up for me to lay my head on. As I lay down she took my lower arm and laid her head on it. Her hair smelled flowery. She didn't shift or move the rest of the movie. As the credits rolled she sat up and looked at me. I looked deep into her eyes. "You are such a gentleman." "You mean I passed the test?" "There was no test. But if there was, you would have passed." She smiled and gave me a quick, soft kiss. "I better go home." I stood up and gave her a quick hug. "Jerry, my parents are coming to get the kids on Friday, and keep them overnight. They'll be taking them to my nephew's birthday party. Would you like to, maybe watch another movie?" "Sure. Friday or Saturday?" Either, or both." She walked me to the door. "And Jerry, I know what happened to you. Thank you, for being a gentleman." Thursday evening Lee called and told me there was going to be a slight change of plans. She would be dropping the kids off at her parents' on her way home from school. I didn't ask why she wasn't going to the party. I later found out her brother, a priest, had pressured her to remain married, and she didn't want to be around his negative attitude. I told her to plan on me barbecuing dinner, and to come over right after work. I told her to call me from her cell phone when she was half an hour from arriving. Lee arrived in relaxed style. She was again wearing shorts, but a nice button-down shirt and sandals as well. She had pretty clips in her hair, and looked cheerful. We ate nice halibut fillets, a salad, and rice pilaf. During dinner Lee suddenly doubled over and grabbed her abdomen, and groaned. I damned near choked. "Lee. I'm all right, I'm all right." She sat back up. She looked at me. "I am, as women sometimes are, and I had a pain. It used to happen a lot until I had children. I stopped nursing Marcus only 2 months ago, and this, monthly almost surprised me." She resumed eating. "I have a heating pad if you need it." And I knew where it was. "Oh, does this happen to you often, a lady has cramps in your home?" She giggled. "I hurt my back a couple years ago, you silly." I stood to go get it. "Let's wait and see if I'll need it." We soon finished eating and she stood and started cleaning the kitchen. "Lee, leave that and let's watch the movie. In case you haven't noticed, I'm Filipina, and Filipina do not leave messy kitchens." She was fast, and in no time the dishwasher was humming away. "Now let's see what movies you have." As she stood there I held out the heating pad to her. "I got it just in case." She took it from me, stood on tiptoes and kissed me lightly. We moved to the couch. I sat down and she lay down with her head on my lap. We began watching an old classic she hadn't seen. Halfway through it she curled up in pain. She sat up and grabbed her abdomen. "I'll plug in the heating pad." I got up and plugged it in, then handed it to her. I also grabbed a blanket, and then lay down, pulling her with me. I moved her arm away from the heating pad and held it in place for her. After a few minutes she turned and looked into my eyes. She reached up and pulled my head down, and gave me a soft, long kiss. Can you guess what happens next? My 3 best, all within 1 day. Looking at me she asked, "How about if I pay to have your house painted this week, and we can be together all day instead of paint?"